experiences of mentoring, how it can help you, advantages, pitfalls, and what have you. I'm no expert on that, so obviously I'm just here to platform this section. We've actually got three panelists, one of whom is stuck in traffic, so when she gets here, I'll bring her in anyway. But in the meantime, we have 2/3 of a very impressive panel, and they are, and let me get people's names correct, Saziso Phiri, I hope I've got that correctly, and Raksha Patel. Raksha. This is correction. Raksha and Saziso. This is mentoring. So first of all, one by one, I'll ask you first of all, Saziso. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do and who you work for, or are you an individual? Tell us about yourself.
Hello, everyone. So yeah, my name is Saziso. I'm a curator, producer, creative strategist, and I like to also call myself an artist advocate. So I work that I do involves curating art exhibitions, producing projects, public programs, and cultural programming as well. And I do a lot of work in terms of artist mentoring as well. So as this is a panel about mentoring, I'll focus on that. So normally when I work with artists on commissions, on exhibitions, for me it's really important for there to be a strand in terms of what's next, in terms of supporting their practice. So not just about creating the work for the output for that particular project. It's really important that there is also some kind of artistic or professional development involved. So that's a really key part of my practice. And then in terms of other artist development that I do is I mentor artists. So I do mentoring work for with organisations such as crits with artists, but also one-to-one mentoring and workshops, and that is also for professional and artistic development. And up until in the new year, I started a newsletter called Articulate, which is an artist development platform, a newsletter with insights, artist opportunities as well, and also opportunities for one-to-one mentoring and guidance.
Thanks for that. Raksha, tell us a bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Raksha Patel. I should say firstly that I'm an alumni of DMU a long time ago. But I'm a practicing artist, I'm a painter, I curate exhibitions, I write and I lecture. I almost forgot what the last thing that I do. I'm a senior lecturer at University of the Arts London on a BA painting course, and I work there full time, and I carve out time to make my painting. And a lot of my job involves helping young people, anyone who's studying, and I have done some mentoring previously as well. But my position as a mentor, like how I see myself as a teacher, a lecturer, or like a guide that helps people who might be at the start of their career, is to, I try and like put myself into the shoes of that person. What is it that they need? What career aspirations do they have? And for me to be able to support them from the position that they're in, but not only like the position that they're in at the moment at their stage of their career, but also to think about their background, like who they are, and I, take into consideration their genders, their race, their class, and try and pitch the way that I support them through that lens. And what I bring to that, obviously, is my own experience, the skills that I have, stories that I have of like how I've gone about doing things, but also kind of look at their potentiality. A mentee might not fully see all the skill set and the experience and the potential that they have, and it's my role to help them kind of see what all the possibilities are and what kind of opportunities that they can tap into, and to support them and to kind of obviously like give them confidence and to be there for them as a guide.
Thank you for that. That leads me into my first question, straight observation. It's for myself as well as for the rest of the room. I suppose I should start with you, Saziso, because you've answered it partially.
Okay.
Both of your opinions, why are mentors important in our industry and how?
I think you kind of touched on it a little bit in that, sometimes we don't see our full potential. I think we can come into, I think the arts is quite interesting because there are lots of factors, a lot of them kind of structural, which can impact the journey or the growth of a development of someone's career. And so with a mentor, I think why mentoring is important for me in the industry is that it's an opportunity for someone, particularly who is new, to come in and to learn and to get guidance from someone who's more experienced in order how to navigate the industry, but also thinking around their artistic practice. For me, I work in contemporary art, where a lot of artists are making work about, heavy subject matters, etc. So there's also an opportunity for feedback, for critique, really learning around the ethics of making work, the morals, and really getting them to think about why they're making the work they're making, really getting them to think about the audiences that they're engaging with. I think as a mentor who has previously had an artistic practice as well, I can give them insights into kind of making work, and really thinking about who the work is for, and also how to communicate that work, how to speak about their work, but really kind of, I suppose, also instilling a confidence in them that, that what they have to bring is really unique, and kind of staying true to themselves as well. Not to become a carbon copy of their peer. So it's also being an encourager. And then from the professional side of things, it's really navigating the industry. I think the arts is quite complex. There's lots of different areas. There's obviously public art, there's kind of socially engaged work, there's also the commercial side of things. So it's really kind of ensuring that that they are kind of equipped, for navigating the sector and the industry, and also just recognizing and realizing that different parts of the industry work differently. For example, the public sector, museums, galleries, institutions, so very different to the commercial world. But also as a curator, thinking around those relationships that artists have with institutions. How do you approach institutions? How do you develop institutions? And it's also about the realities, I think, of working in the arts as well, being quite transparent, in terms of their expectations as well. But I would say it is that thing of also really getting them to kind of realize their potential as well, especially when you're making art that comes from the heart, and, you're giving a part of yourself. It can be really difficult putting your art out there, putting a piece of yourself out there. Even as a curator, when I'm putting stuff out there, it's scary for me. So I can only imagine what it's like for an artist. So it's really about building that confidence as well and getting them to realize their potential.
Quick one, just get a sense in the room at the moment. Are there many young artists at the start of their journey here who could possibly deal with the sort of one-to-one or advice? I know some of us might be in the administration side. And okay, so I'll give everyone a chance to ask questions as we go on. I'm just trying to make sure we're effectively on the same page. So we've got some young artists in the room who are starting out and could do with advice. Did you, either of you two, have mentors who have been helpful in pushing you forward to where you are now?
I mean, shall I respond to why
Please.
mentors? So I've just got a few notes on why mentors are important in the industry, and pretty much what you said, but kind of elaborating on that. I work in fine arts, and it can be quite brutal out there. It's very competitive. Sometimes I've been practicing for about 30 years as a painter, something like that. And, that journey has had lots of ups and downs. I'll talk about my story kind of later on. But as an individual, sometimes if you're not part of a network, you're not, you're a freelancer, it can feel really being out at sea. And then having a mentor is really amazing because you've got someone that's a trusted person that you can safely open up to and talk about where you're at and what you want to pursue. And sometimes when you talk about, you know, a project that you might have, or you want to, you know, you've got, you know, you want to put on an exhibition, or even you want to create a new body of work, or something in your work that might be quite deeply personal, and you know, you're exploring some challenging subject matter, and sometimes you know, it's quite tricky to talk to your peers about what it is that you want to do, because people do pinch ideas as well, let's face it, you know. But when you've got the mentor, or mentors, you've got a trusted person that you know that, almost like a counsellor in a way as well, that I can open up to this person and sound out this idea with them, ask them what they think, and then work out a strategy how I can make this thing happen. And, you know, it could be any of those things, but I think it's just having that safe person to, you know, having, you know, one or two people that can support you, and you can kind of rely on them as well.
So my question, I suppose, is how formal is this? Because we've all, whatever in life, we can call a friend up about this or call a friend up about it. This is specific to people's work. Here, is it an informal thing, or is it formally right, I've now established that this person's been in the business longer than me. We're going to formally say, shake hands, and you're my mentor. Or how does it work? Because I'm thinking of the people in the room here, like, who might be interested in finding someone who can mentor them. What was your experience, either of you, in terms of someone more experienced than you pulling you along?
Yeah, so for me, my route into the arts was, I don't know if I'd call it a non-traditional route, because I think we all come into the arts in different ways, but I don't really have formal arts education at like higher education level. So I actually studied, I went to art college, did art subjects for A-level, and then I studied politics and international studies at university, coming from an African family, you know, doctor, lawyer, engineer. And and politics was the next thing I was interested in. But I think towards the end of my time at university, I was gravitated towards the kind of the creative section of the careers library, really taking a creative career seriously, but I just didn't know where to start. And then so I'm from Nottingham, and so going back to Nottingham after uni, didn't know anyone. Some of the people that I went to art college with, you know, they stayed in London or whatnot. So I had to start again, like start over. And at the time I was working like a corporate job, and I felt really stuck. But luckily there was a mentoring scheme that was available. I don't know if anyone is old enough to remember, there was this thing called, we were part of this thing called the EU some years ago. And so there was a lot of funding that came from Europe to really help like creatives in the city. And so there were a lot of funded opportunities to get mentorships, to do workshops. And I remember that I wanted to work in the arts, but I didn't want to practice as an artist anymore. I wanted to be more of a supporter and nurturer. And I had an idea for a project, but I was really scared about it. But through speaking with a mentor, they really gave me like the confidence to be able to pursue that. And I remember in one of our first conversations, the mentor, I'll mention her name, Kate Lockhart, you know, she said to me, look, it doesn't matter if you feel like people are not going to like it or whatnot. You need to go out and do it. You know, you need to go out and see how it will work. You know, this is your dream. And I think that was a seed that was sown in me to kind of start off what I did, to pursue what I did. Through that scheme, I ended up getting more mentors. So I had a mentor who was helping me specifically on the business side of things. So it was great. We want to create, we want to do all the creative stuff. But having another mentor, Oriel, who was amazing, really got me thinking about, okay, but how are you going to make money out of this? You know, if you're going to be working in the arts as a career, you need to make money. So she really kind of interrogated me with a lot of the questions, and really kind of making making a living from what I do, but in a real honest way. And then, so they were kind of like physical mentors that I had. Then as I pursued and started working on projects, I saw a lot of the people that I worked with, the artistic directors of the organizations that I was working with as mentors as well. Another mentor of mine is Martin Reed, who is a curator and a founder of New Art Festival, which is one of the largest and oldest street art festivals in the world. And we would just sit down and have these conversations, and he was a risk taker. So the whole thing around like being a risk taker and being radical in the work that you do was a real big push for me, and I saw him as a mentor. But then I also feel that I was like I like to call it, I was a silent mentee to a lot of people. So there were a lot of people that I looked up to, like, for example, people like Sharmadean Reed, who is an amazing kind of entrepreneur, and just kind of looking at her journey, reading about her journey, listening to podcasts and interviews about the work that she did, and lots of other people as well. So I would say that mentorship really helped me in terms of like believing myself, having those people that tell me that you can do this, but also having those people that were very honest about the kind of the practicalities of navigating the arts as well. People who help me to kind of be a bit more radical in the work that I do, take risks, and then those who were kind of like helpful in me being realistic, around kind of finances, etc. So I would say that, that's kind of like how mentoring helped me in a way. And I think, sorry, I know I'm blabbing on, but I think also even today, as still working in the arts and at the stage where I'm at, I still have mentors. I still have people that I look up to, people who don't know that they're mentors to me. So a lot of my peers, I look up to, and I look at their examples of leadership, a lot of little things that they'll say. And I'm so gutted that Amara's not here, because Amara is someone that I look up to a lot in terms of kind of her leadership as well. So kind of looking at those examples, I see these people as mentors.
So mentoring can be informal as well. It's not a handshake type
It's
situation.
not like a formal thing where it's like
Gotcha.
a one-to-one formal setting. It can be a conversation. It can be, I don't know, someone you follow on Instagram. It could be, something you hear on a mentoring session. Could even be a podcast episode.
That's widening things out of my understanding. I'm going to put it to the room very shortly as well, to get a sense of who's doing what or who's in need or in search of what. But what about yourself, Raksha? Was it the same experience? Similar?
Yeah, I mean, I never took part in any kind of mentoring program as such, and yeah, I don't know, a part of me, I've kind of, not so much these days, but like say 10, 15 years ago, I see these mentoring programs pop up, and I never kind of applied for them or took part, because a part of me kind of felt, I wasn't sure like how they could support me. I don't know, I think if there was something like a people of colour mentor program for fine artists, I probably would have like applied for something like that. But I think because of my work for quite a good while was and now is again about looking at race and identity and class, I think I needed to be with people that understand that in the work and can support me. But when I was a BA student, we had this curator, some of you might know him, called Eddie Chambers, and he'd curated lots of like black art exhibitions, and black art back then meant black and Asian, Chinese heritage exhibitions across the country, including Leicester. And I'd seen one of the exhibitions in Leicester, and then to my kind of, I was so excited because Eddie came to teach for one day at Norwich School of Art where I was a student, and I managed to sign up and get a tutorial with him. And then after that, he, like when I graduated, he shared his mailing list to me, all of his contacts, and then that immediately built up my network, because I put on this show with another fellow student in a disused shop, and I needed like people to invite, and I didn't know who to invite. So I got this ready-made kind of mailing list. But someone like that has been in the background of my life for many years. So if I've got something to sound out about, that him and other people, I will go to certain people that I know are experienced in this thing, and that can help me. And like yourself, I still, seek out kind of mentorship today as well, because the challenges kind of continue in different forms. So you might kind of be knowledgeable about one area, but then another kind of challenge arises, and you need someone to help you navigate that. So like my recent challenges have been, because I've been put into some managerial and leadership positions, I've found that it's kind of, I've never done that before. It's kind of a whole host of different issues have come up. I don't know, I think maybe it sounds, I don't know, sometimes being small and being Asian doesn't kind of align with what people's idea of a manager looks like. So there's challenges around that. So I seek out other women that are doing that, and just try and find out how do you deal with these things, how do you deal when nobody listens to you when you're trying to get them to do stuff as a manager. So the mentorship kind of continues. But I think it's just I've just been lucky to have trusted people, including my peers, that I can just sound out ideas with. And if I'm making a new piece of work and I'm not sure if it's too challenging, or even if it's saying what I want it to say, I might just take a photo, WhatsApp it to someone. What do you think about this? Or if I'm applying for an open call, WhatsApp them the same pictures and say, can you quickly tell me which picture I should submit for this open call? Because when you're on your own in the studio, all the kind of for me, all the thoughts can kind of go around in your head and overwhelm you, and maybe you might even lose some sleep over it. But when you've got someone that, they'll just quickly tell you and see it from the outside, that I would do this, this and this, not those things that you plan to do. And I've followed that guidance, and it tends to work. Because, sometimes someone else can see what's going on a bit more clearly. And you're kind of caught up with all the wood for the trees.
Thanks for that. So far, just a couple of things I've picked up. It can be formal, it can be informal. It might just sometimes be a role model, like you're pointing out someone you're following online for how they're going about their work, or someone sharing a mailing list with you. I'd like to open it up to the room more specifically in terms of your own specific situations. I know a couple of people put their hands up earlier on about being young artists starting out. Can anyone just tell us a little bit about your specific situation, and how this session might be specific to you, what sort of mentoring you might be in need of, if you can identify that? Just quick show of hand. You've got a question, so go ahead, bro. And there as well. Thank you. Or, hey, it doesn't have to be a question, an observation, but go ahead anyway.
I just wanted to ask if you had any advice on how to. I do think mentors are valuable, especially you should have as many as you can, and super valuable, especially with people who especially artists who kind of lack that, self-confidence sometimes, or it dips up and down.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you do, so we know what the context of your question or your observation, please?
Well, I don't do physical art, I do music.
Okay.
I'm a music artist, I'm a composer and producer. But my question was, do you have advice on how to find a mentor? Because I know you can, network and just talk to people, but is there any more specific advice on how to find the mentor that's specific to you, that's of value to you?
I mean, there are some mentoring programs that you can kind of apply for. You probably know something called ArtQuest, and I know that they were running a mentoring program, and I've just seen them advertised on either on arts, the Arts Council, arts jobs, or things like where people offer these different kinds of schemes. So that's one way, but the other ways that I've done it, is people that I've met kind of along the way, and then you've kind of built a rapport with them, and sort of continue to kind of have that working relationship with them. But there are like specific schemes. I mean, you work on mentoring schemes, I think.
Yes, I work on mentoring schemes, so I'll be sourced. So with some mentoring schemes, I might be brought onto that specific to work with a specific artist because they have a need, a specific need, and we kind of match. But I think in terms of finding a mentor, there are lots of mentoring schemes in music. There are a lot of like music mentoring schemes, and like a really good mentoring scheme will match you with a mentor whose kind of experience and skills and expertise align with like what you want to do and your needs as well. So I definitely say look at mentoring schemes. There's I won't. You don't have to say how old you are, but I think if you're between 18 and 30, there's youth music, which is a great scheme where you can apply for funding as well, to kind of for development. There are things like Arts Council, developing your creative practice, where you can get funding for development. And one thing that I normally say to artists, and I know there's some artists in the room that I've mentored before, is that if you do ever have the opportunity to have that funding and that money, think to yourself like, okay, who is a person that I look up to, who I would just love to have a one-to-one session with and learn from in a way that I can't learn from them through a podcast or a magazine article that I could pay for their time. And then if you're able to, through funding, approach them. You'd be surprised how many people, even the big name, are willing, if they have the capacity, to mentor, or to pass on the baton as well. So I would say, seek for funding and look at opportunities of who and reach out to people as well to be mentored. Oh, sorry.
Just to elaborate on that, when it comes to approaching someone, say, drafting up an email, and you said possibly paying them for their time, how would you go about wording that? I wouldn't know where to start, really.
Yeah, I think it's first of all just starting the conversation really and saying, my name's such and such, this is my practice. I'm at this stage. It's always really important to just give a little bit of an insight as to where you are and where you want support. I'd really love if it'd be possible to have some mentoring sessions with you to help me with this, whether it's a project or just kind of your professional development, and then kind of see what happens. But I think it's good to make it clear. I think that, if there is the capacity, they'll pay for the time. Some people will mentor you for free, but I think it's just that initial conversation of, I'm looking for a mentor and I'd really like to see if there's capacity for you to mentor me as well. So don't feel afraid. And I think if you ever do get like big wads of funding, I always say to people, think of those people who would normally be unreachable if you didn't have the funds to be able to approach them as well. So I hope that's helpful.
Thanks for that. I'll probably give you an opportunity a bit later on just to say a bit more specifically about where you're at and what you're after. But obviously, it's up to you guys how much you want to share. Is there anyone at this point who's got, I can see one hand there, and I think, was it another hand over there? We'll get to everyone. If we, down there, and then we'll come to the row there, you guys as well.
Hey, thanks. I have a question, but also just to respond to the person at the front. I got some really good advice from you to, when approaching a mentor, it's really nice to start off with what you appreciate about their work. Yeah. Like if you say, why you're passionate, why you've chosen them as a mentor, because that really engages them, like I love your work, I've been following you this long and things like this. The question I had, Raksha, I think, raised it, but for both of you, is I'm not really new. I've had a few mentors with mixed results. One thing I've found is some of them are quite cagey about, you mentioned you might just ask for contacts. And there's even some who have said, don't come to me for my little black book. And it's kind of like quite cynical about that was quite off-putting and very boundaried. And of course, one of the main things you need is contacts. But like, I don't know, just see what you would say about that. It's just difficult to ask because you do want contacts, but when you're approaching someone, you don't want them to feel like you're just after their contacts. So I just feel that's a difficult area, if you could speak to.
It is difficult, and I think I mean, that when I got that contact list back then, that's a rare thing. It's never happened since. And I completely hear you and can relate to people are quite cagey about sharing, just sharing who they make, because it is really competitive, even with the mentor. If they're in the same field as you, they might be. It's tricky. I don't know. I mean, I think the contacts that I started off with were great, but I just kind of built on that through networking. I know it's hard. I mean, it's hard just to kind of build your own contacts, but. I mean, it's just like going to lots of events like this and going to, if there's someone that you want to particularly network with, and you know that they're likely to be at this event, or it's their exhibition or something, just, go to it and try and build up that network, that contact. It's hard. I don't know.
It's an interesting one. So go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think for me, a big part is like introducing people to artists, because I don't know everything. I can't give them everything that they need, and so it's almost like, for me, I do like to introduce people to help them on the next step, whether it's another artist that they can be inspired. But I think for me, I wouldn't normally directly introduce people without having built a relationship with an artist and really understanding their needs and their intentions as well. So I wouldn't just go out and give out contacts. Also, there's also kind of, it's also getting in contact with that person and checking if they're happy to be introduced to that person, and understanding what that relationship might be and what the potential boundaries or limitations may be. But let's say if we're at an exhibition launch and I'm with an artist and I see someone, I will always introduce people. I say, you've got to get to know that person, you two should link, you've got similar interests. And actually, there are some people who are like, Saz, please stop, because, introverts, and I'm out of habit, I'll just introduce people, and some people might feel uncomfortable with it. So I'm kind of learning to kind of ask permission before doing that. But I think it's really important to connect people where possible. But I would say, in terms of reaching out to direct contacts or giving, I think there definitely is a relationship with the artist first, and really understanding their needs, and how they can, and how that relationship can develop. Because not everybody wants to be, not everyone wants their details to be given out and that sort of thing. So
I was thinking more about maybe just signposting, like this venue might be great for you to approach, or these people, or this agent, just not completely, here's the number, make them talk. But also I was just thinking about, not that we want to copy necessarily, but in a very white paradigm, world and business and things, how the mentoring structures, they take on people and introduce them around, and it's very... Do you know what I mean? Whether it's the familial, in America and stuff, how they have so much more people. They have programs, they come out of university, and we don't have this model very much, of a kind of route. We don't have any of those roots, do you know what I mean? ROUTES, all the other roots, but, into these... I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. And I think, for me, in terms of those physical mentors that I have, I think a lot of it was going out to things and networking and introducing myself. Volunteering was a way as well of me kind of just making myself visible, and then them getting to know who I was, and then taking me under their wing as well. But I would definitely say, actually, because it's a mentorship panel, one of my first mentors, I remember they did a talk, and at the end of the talk, they said it was at a university, and they said to the students, look to your left and look to your right. And he was encouraging people to get to know it, encouraging them to get to know each other. And he said, you know, because these are the people that are probably going to help you get paid. And then at the end, he said, your network is your net worth. So he was like really encouraging people to just even have those conversations with their peers, the people sitting right next to them, because you never know what that conversation might strike up or who that person might end up introducing you to down the line. And I know you touched on the networking a little bit. So I would definitely say putting yourself out there is really, really important in terms of really making yourself visible, because then potential mentors and people can see your willingness, can see a commitment as well.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was just going to say, because you mentioned the word introvert, and like so many artists, you know, do have like a shyness or, you know, can be more inclined to be an introvert. And it's like, that there's kind of, you know, it's a challenge, isn't it? If you're introverted or you're a bit shy or you feel a bit awkward, like going to like a networking event or a big private view or something like that, it's quite hard to even like, you know, get there, let alone start going up to people and talking to them. But I think one way around that is to also to do it digitally as well, and like contact people online, like for, you know, we've got Instagram, so I've kind of built up a network without over lockdown, without even actually meeting people, like just contacting them online, and gone as far as to actually even curating a show with people that I've actually never met in real life at all. So you can kind of like, if it's really challenging to go and like be visible physically, you can like do it. There's other ways that you can do it in and start to build up a network, and then eventually like meet them in real life as well. But I agree. I think going there, making yourself visible if you can do it, and you know, putting yourself, you know, being in you know, when opportunities arise, like turning up, talking to people, and practically, I know it can be annoying for some people, but I also carry little business cards with a picture of my work on it, details on the back, and if I can't kind of keep up the conversation, or someone else has gone and they've started talking to that person and you're in the middle of conversation, which kind of often happens, you can give them the card and they might give you a card back, and you can chase it up with an email and arrange to meet at another time. So there's, you know, all these different kind of.
I mean, some of this is we're talking about networking at the moment, but I suppose my question to the room. I know there's two people over there who want to ask a question, which you'll get to in a minute. Are there many, whether artists or administrators in the room, who are actually looking to meet people who are more experienced than them? Is that the sort of, just get a sense of someone who's doing the same thing you're doing, but you want to get some of their experience? I mean, that's my understanding. So I think there's yourself, anyone who's got, I think the first question, this lady here, and then and next to her, and I think you've got something you want to ask as well. Go ahead.
Hiya. So for context, I'm Cara Thompson. I'm a spoken word artist based in Nottingham. And I also work as a creative programmer for children and young people at an organisation for Writing East Midlands. The question I sort of wanted to ask was actually related to what I guess are the kind of key skills and traits you think a mentor requires to have, and what we should be looking for, A, if we're looking for a mentor, but B, also if we're kind of hoping to be one or be a good one, at least. I think like the last question that was asked, I've had good and bad experiences, and you kind of, especially now that I'm kind of working in the field of young people, and I've kind of moved from being that young creative to being the one that the young creatives are speaking to and looking to for guidance. I'd love to know, I guess, what you guys think are the key kind of traits or qualities you need to bring to that role in order to serve others well, and to kind of leave that positive impact. So,
It's a good question. I mean, I didn't become a mentor intentionally. I think, you know, a lot of kind of me getting to where I am as an artist advocate and a mentor has come from my own experience. And then I suppose me kind of observing and seeing some of the needs, like in the sector, I've kind of almost just become drawn to like supporting artists. And I suppose also just seeing what's missing in terms of artist development. So for me, it's very much about addressing needs that maybe other people in my area, whether geographically or the medium that I work with or work in, or the part of the sector that I work in, isn't addressing. So I kind of fell into it. I wouldn't say that I intentionally became a mentor, but in terms of what makes a good mentor, I think empathy and understanding and patience, I think is really important. Really understanding that, you know, we all have different experiences. You know, we've all come into this very at different stages, and it's really understanding that not everyone is like you as well. And it's about not trying to make that person like you, but bringing out the best in that person. And like going back to that whole thing where you were saying about really allowing an artist or creative to realise their full potential. I think what also makes a very important mentor is experience as well. Like, I think having experience makes a massive difference. So a lot of the stuff that I can pass on to mentees is based on my own experience, either as someone who has worked with artists or someone who has been an artist, or just my interactions with artists, you know, case studies and things that have happened with other artists. But I think the main ones are really kind of empathy and understanding and patience, really, not being judgmental. But I also feel like I think in order to be a really good mentor as well, I think you have to be very honest as well about things. It's not always beautiful conversations, you know. It depends, you know, on the relationship, I suppose, between the mentor and the mentee. But, you know, there are sometimes going to be difficult conversations, but it's always going to be for the better for them as well. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I think especially in the context of working with young people as well, you do encounter sometimes challenging behaviour because they're going through a lot, or, you know, things that you might not fully understand. So yeah, it's kind of good to hear that kind of honesty element. And yeah, I'd kind of be interested to know maybe if there's anything to do with like boundaries as well, you guys kind of have encountered in the role as well. But yeah, thank you for all of that.
Did you have a question next? Still sitting next to you? No, just make sure. Oh. I'm not throwing anybody in there. I think you had your hand up earlier.
Yeah, I did. Do you know what? I don't know if I need to take up that much time. I just wanted to say, so first of all, hi, my name's Kim Thompson. We're actually sisters. I'm a visual artist, though. I'm sort of within the first 5 years of my painting practice, having been a commercial illustrator, so there's that kind of crossover. And I've actually had the pleasure of having Saziso as a mentor while I sort of transitioned from commercial to painting. I just kind of wanted to say that I appreciated what you said about this notion of being a mentee being ongoing, because I think I've gotten to a point where I had quite a year that felt like I achieved a lot of things I wanted to, with like a first solo exhibition and a couple of things that felt, you know, kind of a long way away that I managed to kind of do, and then this kind of wilderness where I wasn't sure what to do next. And it's just really nice to hear from you all that that's something that is ongoing, and it's not something that you should kind of see as like, oh, I've done that now and I move on. This idea that people can continue to be silent mentors, and, you know, it's something that it's a career-long thing, was just nice to hear. So no question, but just, yeah, appreciated that. I needed to hear it.
No, that's appreciated. Our observations are welcome and sought. I think the sister there and there had questions, so yeah, to your left. Thank you. And then in the front row.
Hi, good morning. I was kind of just feeding off what you said about experience and learning from experienced people. I think it's something that I'm still coming to terms with. I think in society and, you know, our generation is very much like self-made, you know, you can do it yourself, you don't need someone to tell you what to do. So I think it's learning how to sit under people and be humble and realize that you don't know it all and submit in a way, you know, like just honor, respect, that type of thing. Like someone's gone ahead of you. I remember hearing something at church, because I'm a Christian, And someone said that an elder sitting down can see further than a young person standing. And it's not necessarily to do with age. Yes, age, but experience, maturity, that type of thing. Like, no matter how young and big and bold we are, somebody that's done it before can see further than we can. So I say that to say that I'm just still like learning from these things. But a question that I had was, so you mentioned about getting funded to kind of reach people that are higher up or more experienced as a means to support that. So the higher people are up, I find that it's harder to reach them. And so I'd say, how do you kind of break that boundary of like getting past emails or actually being able to talk to somebody?
What do you like? What do you do?
I'm an interior designer and stylist.
Okay. I would say that cold emailing can work, but also it's not always successful. I think it's that thing of, I suppose sometimes you do have to go that extra mile of making yourself visible. So if there are events, if there's a talk that particular person is at, you know, if you're able to and have the capacity to attend that talk, and then if there is the opportunity to do so, introduce yourself. At the end, you know, maybe go up and introduce yourself and speak a little bit about what you do. Sometimes you'd be surprised at how many people will give you their card or take interest. And I think what I liked about what the lady was saying around when you do reach out to someone, like speak, you know, let them know why you know, show your appreciation for their work. Sometimes you have to go the extra mile. You know, sometimes it might not be the first attempt to contact them, but I think you have to be intentional, and it has to be meaningful as well, in terms of why you're approaching that person and why you want them to mentor you. But sometimes it is that thing of being visible, and if there is that opportunity to attend a talk or be where they are, not like stalking them or anything, but using those, like finding opportunities to connect with them, to learn from them from afar, whether that's through like a conversation or an in-conversation or a panel or something like that, I think is really important. I'm not too versed on like the kind of the interior design or like that industry, but I can imagine that there are a lot of people going after the same people, but I think it's just keep persevering as well. And also it doesn't have to be that big net, you know, sometimes there are mentors who you might not even realise are your mentors, but it's striking up those conversations with different people where you can organically find another mentor as well, who might be more suited than that.
And if there's someone like really well known that's quite hard to get hold of, or they're super busy, they don't have the capacity to be a mentor, there might be something in their career or something about them that you want to ask specifically. So whether if they cannot meet you, you know, or you know, have that dialogue with you one-to-one, it could even be like a quick email exchange. If you've done your research and you want to find out something, I don't know much about the interior design world, but you know, if there's something specific that you want to ask them, it could be like that's related to their career, and you know they've got that experience. To ask them, I would like to know this from you. Because sometimes when people email you and they say, oh, I want, you know, can you mentor me, or can I, or sometimes I get these emails like, oh, it'd be great to meet up and have a chat. And then it's like, okay, like first I don't have the capacity to do that. But when someone writes and they say something specific, could you tell me about these things? I'm more inclined to kind of take note of that and go, yeah, I can tell you about those things actually. You know, and then eventually you might meet and have a conversation as well, and you know, build a working relationship. But you know, that's a way in, and then that kind of shows that you've done your research on that person.
And I was just going to say, another thing that just came to my mind is, like, do not underestimate the power of LinkedIn. Like, honestly, LinkedIn, you need to get onto it. I know there's lots of like criticisms and memes of how certain people use LinkedIn, but in terms of like mentors, in terms of reaching those people, you'd be surprised by just finding out what company a person works for, or who that person's assistant is, who that person's colleague is, but also having that visibility on LinkedIn and showing who you are and what you're doing. You'd be surprised how many people you can connect to and how much of a quicker route it might be to get into those people who are hard to reach through other means of contact and communication.
And I know you've got a question. I just wanted to jump back on what you, just because none of us know about the interior design or world. Quick question, I suppose, even though you're here to ask questions, I'm just wondering, is it a thing about who you want to work for? You know, in terms of your future clients, who you'd like as your clients, is that the sort of thing sometimes you're looking to get a steer and to say, well, that's where I want to get to. Those are the people I want to be working for in 1 year, 6 months, whatever it is. I need help in getting to talk to them. Is that the sort of thing you're after?
Maybe not necessarily somebody to work for, because I want to work for myself, but it's more of the people that can help me do that.
Got you.
Whether it's landlords that own properties or hotel owners that I can do the designs for.
Got you. Okay, just my understanding. Thank you. I know.
So first of all, I just wanted to shout out a platform called Mentoring Matters. I don't know if you've heard of them already, but I've recently applied for their mentorship scheme. And the current round, we're able to meet with people that work for Urban, so like the French luxury fashion house, which is pretty cool because then probably not people that would reply to my emails normally. But my question to you guys is, because I have been selected for this program, how can I make the most of the mentorship scheme and also kind of not benefit my mentor, as I know they're kind of giving their expertise to me, but I don't want it to feel like a one-sided relationship, I guess.
I mean, you could, sorry, shall I jump in? You could do, like, yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
But you could draw up a list of, like, before you meet them or have contact with them, like, what is it that I want? What is it that I need? Mm-hmm. So then it's not that you're in the steering seat, but there's more of an equal kind of level with you. So you could say to your mentor, I would like to, you know, I would like to have a conversation about this, and then so they've got something to go on as well. Like they can like do some prep on what it is that you want. So when they meet you, they can like share that thing with you. So you know, it's quite when I have tutorials with students all the time. It's not quite the same as mentoring, but you know, there's this hierarchy where. That can happen with a mentor or a tutor and a mentee and a student or a student. And I sometimes, these days, I just say to them, well, tell me what you want to get out of this session, like before I've met them, and then we'll focus on that thing that you want to discuss. And then it just makes it all a bit more beneficial and tailor-made for that person. So they're maximising their time, and it kind of puts you at a bit more of a like a level kind of playing field as well, where you're not just down there and they're up there. It's a bit more equal.
Thank you.
I mean, it can never be equal totally, but you can sort of try to get it a bit like that.
Saziso?
Yeah, I mean, congratulations. I mean, the way that I see it, and when artists or people come to me and say, oh, I want this person to mentor me or whatnot, I would normally say, okay, what can you already get from that person without being in contact with them, interviews, podcasts, etc. So for me, it's like, what can you gain from now this interaction and this proximity to these mentors that you wouldn't be able to from afar? So make the most of those opportunities, ask those questions, those burning questions that you wouldn't get the answer to in any other capacity, and show them who you are as well, because from there they will identify kind of where the needs are and kind of really help to nurture your potential and your talent and your growth. But I'd say, in a nutshell, don't hold back really. In terms of showing who you are and that willingness to grow and ask those questions that you wouldn't be able to ask in another situation.
Thank you, guys. And for everyone else in the room, I would really recommend Mentoring Matters, especially if you're like in those creative industries where you don't necessarily feel creative. Like I know sometimes, like I work in marketing, so sometimes it feels like am I meant to be here? I'm also a freelance writer, but like for like interior design, I know not everything always caters to that when you're in like at creative events, but I really think Mentoring Matters is good for that because they have like creative directors, brand strategists, and things like that. So yeah.
We're more or less up on time. I just want to see if there's any room for maybe one more observation or question, just to get it clearly. Yes. Is anyone else got a final observation or question they want to get in the last, literally 90 seconds or so that I think I have? And if not, that's cool. Go ahead.
So I would definitely encourage you, just kind of going back to what I said before about looking to your left, looking to your right, and make it like, okay, I'm not forcing people to interact if you don't feel comfortable with, but I would definitely say maybe a task is not to leave this room without maybe speaking to a person that you've never spoke to before. Because I'm looking around, there's some big people in this room. I can see some key people who could be potential mentors as well. So I would say maybe strike up that conversation because you never know where that might lead as well. So.
Thanks very much for your time. Session 2. Can you please show your appreciation, please, for Raksha and Saziso? It's approximately half an hour to the next section, but please let them say talk to each other in the meantime, and we'll see you at 1 o'clock. Hear me now? 1 o'clock, 1:30.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.